Libra, there is a stillness right before something you've earned finally arrives. And that is exactly where you are standing as you begin to listen to this. Not the noisy kind of anticipation, not the frantic hoping that keeps a person awake, but a quieter thing, a held breath. The feeling of a room that has been set for a guest who hasn't walked in yet, though the table is laid and the light is warm and everything is turned toward the door. That is the energy around you now. Something has been prepared on your behalf, prepared over a long stretch of time, prepared even in the seasons you thought were empty. And it is close enough now that you can almost sense the weight of it before you can see its shape. I want to start with what I feel rather than what I think, because the mind wants to argue and the body already knows. And what I feel around you is abundance that has been mislabeled. For a long time, you have looked at your own life and called it modest, called it a work in progress, called it not yet, when in truth, you were sitting on top of a richness you simply hadn't learned to read. You counted what was missing. You became fluent in the language of lack. But the ledger you were keeping was the wrong ledger, and the numbers you were adding up were never the real total. Let me take apart this word that the title of this reading throws at you so loudly. This idea of being rich, because it is a word that has been handled roughly and cheapened by everyone who uses it to sell you something. When I sense it around you, it does not arrive as noise or as glitter. It arrives as spaciousness, as the ability to say yes to what matters and no to what drains you without your stomach clenching, as mornings that belong to you, as the particular relief of a decision made from possibility instead of fear. Underneath the loud surface of that word is something almost tender, and it is that tender thing that is coming toward you first. You have a channel like this to thank for finding your way here at precisely the moment you needed to hear it, and I don't say that lightly. The way Spiritual Light Tarot tends to reach people is rarely an accident of scrolling. You arrived carrying a question you may not have fully said out loud even to yourself, a question about whether the largeness you feel inside you will ever have somewhere to go, whether the size of your inner life will ever be matched by the size of your outer one. Hold on to that question. We are going to answer it, and the answer is more generous than you are letting yourself expect. Here is the first thread I want to follow, because there are several separate threads in your life right now, and part of what is happening is that they are beginning to braid together. The first thread is the thing you built when no one was watching. There is something you made, something you practiced, something you kept refining in private hours that no one paid you for and no one applauded. You may have told yourself it was a hobby or a phase or a small personal thing, but it was never small. You were quietly accumulating a mastery, layer by patient layer. And the world has a way of eventually needing exactly the mastery that someone built in the dark. The second thread is your name. And by that I mean your reputation, the impression you leave in rooms after you have gone. You have been building this without effort and without noticing, through the ordinary decency of how you treat people, through the times you kept your word when it would have been easier not to, through the quality you refused to compromise, even when no one would have known the difference. People remember this. It travels farther than you think. Somewhere, right now, your name is being spoken in a conversation you are not part of, and it is being spoken well, and that conversation is going to change something for you. The third thread is the most surprising one, and it is timing. There is a rhythm to how recognition arrives, and you have been slightly out of phase with it, always a little early or a little late, always feeling as if you missed the wave by a breath. That misalignment is ending. The current you have been swimming against is turning to move with you. What felt like effort against resistance is about to feel like momentum, and the difference between those two experiences is not the amount of work, but the direction of the water. Now let me sit with what wealth actually means for you specifically, because abundance wears a different face for every person, and yours has a very particular shape. For some people, richness is safety. The deep exhale of never again lying awake doing arithmetic. For others, it is freedom. The open road, the passport with no fixed return. For you, I sense that it is something closer to permission. The permission to become fully the person you have been rehearsing in private. The wealth you are moving toward is not only the kind you spend, it is the kind that finally lets you stop shrinking. Notice how much of your energy has gone into managing smallness, into fitting through doors built for people with lesser dreams, into translating your ambitions into acceptable sizes so that others would not feel uncomfortable around your hunger. That translation has been exhausting, and it has cost you more than any bill ever did. What is arriving now is a life that no longer requires that particular exhaustion. You will not have to make yourself digestible. The room is expanding to fit you rather than asking you to fold. Money, when I feel it around you, does not behave like a fixed object. It behaves like water, and water has habits worth understanding. It moves toward the lowest open place. It follows channels that have been dug for it, and it pools wherever there is a shape ready to hold it. For a long time, you had no container. Not because you lacked worth, but because you had never given yourself permission to build a vessel large enough to receive what you were capable of attracting. That is changing at the level of your inner architecture, and the outer flow always follows the inner shape. There is an old belief you have been carrying, and I want to name it gently because naming a thing loosens its grip. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed the idea that wanting more made you greedy, that desiring wealth made you shallow, that reaching for visibility made you vain. Someone taught you, perhaps without meaning to, that the good and humble people stay quiet and stay poor, and that ascending would somehow make you a worse person. That belief has been a ceiling made of nothing, and you are about to walk right through it, and you will discover there was never anything up there but sky. Because here is a truth the humble version of you needs to hear. Your abundance is not taken from anyone. Wealth is not a fixed pie where your slice leaves someone else hungry. When you rise, you do not push another down. In fact, the more you have, the more you are able to give, to lift, to fund, to build, to shelter. The version of you that flourishes is far more useful to the people you love than the version that martyrs itself into scarcity. You are allowed to be someone whose overflow becomes a river for others. That is not selfishness. That is stewardship of a large life. Let me speak now to the fame, the title names, because I know that word can feel foreign, even unwanted, and I want to give it a truer meaning than the loud one. What I sense coming toward you is not the hollow, kind of famous, not the empty attention that eats a person alive. It is recognition, which is a very different thing. It is the experience of being finally seen for what you have quietly been all along. The relief of not having to explain yourself. The moment when people stop underestimating you and something you always knew about yourself becomes something the world knows too. Consider how long you have lived with the ache of being underestimated. The teachers who did not see it, the family who did not understand it, the rooms where your contribution was overlooked and credited to someone louder. That ache leaves a mark. It teaches a person to expect invisibility, to soften their own hopes preemptively so the disappointment will hurt less. But the reading around you is one of witness. You are about to be witnessed. And the people who overlooked you are not the point of the story. The point is that you will finally see yourself reflected back at true size. Recognition, when it comes, tends to arrive through a single door before it floods every door. So let me describe the door I sense. It looks like one person deciding to champion you. One person with reach, with a platform or a network, or simply an unusual generosity, who encounters what you do and cannot stay quiet about it. They will not do it because you begged. They will do it because your work moved them. And people move mountains on behalf of what touched them. Watch for this person. They may already be circling. They may be someone you have discounted. I sense a message coming to you, and I want to describe its texture so you recognize it when it lands. It will feel almost too casual for its importance, the way pivotal moments so often disguise themselves as the most ordinary of afternoons. It might be an invitation phrased mildly, an offer that undersells itself, a question that sounds small but opens onto something enormous. Your instinct may be to hesitate, to assume it is not for someone like you, to talk yourself out of the yes. Do not. The doors that change lives rarely announce their significance. They knock softly and wait to see if you are the kind of person who answers. This brings me to something I want you to understand about your own voice, because your voice is part of this more than you realize. There is a way you explain things, a way you see patterns others miss, a way of putting words together, or images together, or ideas together that is uniquely yours. You have treated this as unremarkable because it comes easily to you, and we always undervalue what comes easily, mistaking effort for worth. But the thing that flows out of you without strain is precisely the thing others cannot do at all, and the market for what only you can do has no ceiling. The channel Spiritual Light Tarot exists because someone believed that quiet inner knowing deserves a voice loud enough to be heard, and I mention that because your situation rhymes with it. You, too, have a quiet knowing that has been waiting for a larger stage. The gift you have been keeping at conversational volume is meant to be broadcast. Not shouted, not distorted, but amplified, so that the people who need exactly what you carry can finally find you the way you found this reading. Your reach is about to extend far beyond the room you have been whispering in. Let me trace the shape of how this expansion tends to unfold, because it does not usually happen all at once. And knowing the pattern will keep you steady when it begins. First, there is a shift you feel internally, a settling, a new sense of deserving that you cannot fully explain. Then there is a small external confirmation, a sign, a coincidence, a stranger's offhand comment that lands strangely true. Then the confirmations begin to cluster, arriving closer together, until one day you look up and realize the exception has quietly become the pattern, and the life you were hoping for has become the life you are living. There is a particular feeling I want you to prepare for, and it is the strange vertigo of receiving. You have become so practiced at giving, at earning, at proving, at working for every scrap, that the experience of things simply arriving may feel almost unsafe. When abundance flows toward a person who has only ever known scarcity, the first instinct is often suspicion. You may find yourself waiting for the catch, bracing for the withdrawal, refusing to fully land in the good because part of you does not trust it to stay. I am asking you to practice trusting it. Let the good be good. Let yourself have it. And I want to loosen another knot. This one around the fear of losing yourself. Somewhere you may worry that wealth would change you, that visibility would corrupt you, that you would become one of the people you dislike. Let me put that worry down for you. The people who are ruined by abundance were hollow before the abundance found them. Money and attention do not create a person's character. They amplify whatever character is already there. And what is already there in you is a depth, a conscience, a rooted decency that will not evaporate under sunlight. You will become more yourself, not less. Think for a moment about what you would do with genuine abundance. And notice that your first thoughts are not about excess. I sense that your instinct is to make things safe for the people you love, to remove the fear from their lives, to say the words, "I've got you," and mean them with the full weight of resources behind them. That instinct is your proof. A person with that instinct is exactly the kind of person the universe can trust with a large sum, because you will not hoard it into a monument to yourself. You will move it back into the world in the shape of care. Let me speak to the fear that time is running out, because I sense that fear in you. The quiet panic that maybe your window has closed, that the moment for your kind of dream has passed, that you are somehow too late. Set that fear down. There is no expiration date on the thing you carry. The world does not stop needing brilliance at a certain age, and the timeline you have been comparing yourself against was never yours to begin with. Some of the largest lives began at the point when others assumed the story was over. Your beginning may be arriving precisely now. Here is something I want you to know about the momentum that is building, because its nature is important. It is not the frantic momentum of hustle, the kind that leaves a person burned to ash in exchange for their success. What I sense is a smoother acceleration, the kind that comes when you finally stop pushing against your own nature and start moving with it. The exhaustion of forcing is ending. In its place comes a strange ease, the sensation of doors that used to require your shoulder now swinging open at a touch of effort finally being met by grace. Watch, in the coming stretch, for the arrival of the right people, because wealth is rarely a solo achievement and yours will not be either. I sense a small constellation of allies gathering around your life, people who see your vision clearly, who want to build alongside you, who bring exactly the skills or the connections or the capital you have been missing. You have been trying to do too much alone, carrying weight that was meant to be shared. The isolation is lifting. Collaboration is coming. And the right partnership can multiply a person's reach in ways that solitary effort never could. There's a table I keep sensing, a table you are going to be invited to sit at. And it is a table you once assumed was not for people like you. Rooms where decisions are made. Conversations where opportunities are handed out. Circles that felt sealed, exclusive, protected by invisible walls. Those walls are more permeable than they appear, and your invitation is being written. When it comes, do not shrink at the threshold. Do not spend the evening apologizing for your presence. You belong at that table not because you snuck in, but because you were always meant to be there. Let me return to the idea of being underestimated, because there is a gift buried inside it that I do not want you to miss. All those years of being counted out gave you something the favored never develop. They gave you resourcefulness. They gave you the ability to build with little, to find the door when the door was hidden, to keep going when there was no applause, to fuel you. That resilience is not a scar. It is a superpower, and it is precisely the quality that turns ordinary success into extraordinary success. The people who had it easy never learned what you learned in the hard years. I want to describe the internal wealth that is going to precede the external kind, because one always comes before the other, and you may feel this shift first. There is a growing sense of enoughness taking root in you, a quieting of the frantic voice that always said you needed to be more before you could be worthy. As that voice softens, a strange thing happens. You begin to carry yourself differently. You negotiate differently, ask differently, expect differently. And the world, which reads these signals more accurately than we like to admit, begins to treat you the way you have finally begun to treat yourself. Consider how your relationship with your own worth has been the hidden variable all along. You could have all the talent in the world, but if some buried part of you believed you deserved scraps, you would find yourself accepting scraps and calling it realism. The ceiling was never in the sky. It was in the story. And the story is being rewritten not by force of positive thinking, but by a deeper recognition finally settling into your bones. The recognition that you were never the small thing you were told you were. You were always this size. You simply forgot. Let me speak to the specific gift you keep dismissing, the one you wave away when people compliment it. There is something you do that makes people feel seen or understood or lifted or entertained or safe. You do it so naturally that you assume everyone can. They cannot. That effect you have on others is rare, and it is valuable, and the world compensates rarity generously once rarity learns to charge for itself. Part of what is shifting is your willingness to finally value the thing you have always given away for free. There is an abundance that comes not from getting more, but from finally receiving what has been offered all along, and I sense a great deal of unclaimed offering around you. Opportunities you did not notice. Kindnesses you deflected. Chances you assumed were meant for someone else. It is as if you have been standing in a downpour holding a closed umbrella, insisting that you were dry. The rain has been falling this whole time. What changes now is not the weather. What changes is that you finally put the umbrella down and let yourself be soaked in the good that was always trying to reach you. I want to prepare you for how quickly the story can turn once the first piece falls into place, because these things often move slowly and then all at once. You may spend a long stretch feeling as though nothing is happening, as though the shift I'm describing is a beautiful idea with no traction in your real life, and then one thing lands, one yes, one introduction, one decision, and that single event unlocks the next, which unlocks the next, until the momentum you could not feel becomes momentum you cannot stop. Trust the slow part. The slow part is where the foundation is poured. Let me address the money directly now in its plainest sense, because you deserve concreteness and not only poetry. I sense income arriving through more than one stream, which is significant because a person supported by a single source is fragile, while a person supported by several is free. There is the main current, the thing you are known for, and then there are tributaries you have not yet noticed. Ways your gift can be expressed and compensated that have not occurred to you yet. Your prosperity is going to become diversified, and diversity is what turns a good season into a stable fortune. There is also a form of abundance that arrives not as something new, but as something returned, and I sense that around you strongly. Somewhere in your past, you gave more than you were paid for. You poured effort into work that was undervalued, into people who did not reciprocate, into seasons that seemed to swallow your labor without gratitude. That energy was not lost. It was banked in a ledger you cannot see. And I sense some of it circling back now in a form you did not expect. A debt of recognition being repaid. A past investment of yourself finally yielding its interest. What you gave in the lean years is coming home carrying more than it left with. Notice too how your body has learned to brace around money, because prosperity is not only a matter of the bank, but a matter of the nervous system. For years, your shoulders have carried the tension of the unpaid. Your jaw has held the arithmetic. Your chest has tightened at the sight of certain envelopes. That bracing was a survival adaptation, and it served you, but it is also a container that keeps abundance out. As the fear loosens, your body will begin to soften in ways you can physically feel. And that softening is not a side effect of the wealth. It is part of how the wealth becomes able to reach you. A relaxed vessel holds more than a clenched one. Pay attention to the spaces you move through, because they are about to change, and the change will be a signpost that the deeper shift is real. The rooms you inhabit, the streets you walk, the surroundings that form the wallpaper of your daily life have a way of rising to match a person's expanding sense of self. You may find yourself drawn toward environments that once felt out of reach, comfortable in settings that used to intimidate you, at ease in a kind of ordinary luxury you had told yourself was for other people. Do not resist this. Your outer world is simply catching up to the inner promotion you have already granted yourself. There is a purchase or a decision or an acquisition that I sense in your future, something you have wanted for a long time and quietly assumed you would never afford. A place, a freedom, a thing that represents to you that you finally made it. I want you to know that this is not fantasy. The reading holds it as real, as reachable, as closer than the discouraged part of you believes. Keep the image of it. Do not let anyone, including your own doubt, talk you out of the specific dream. Specificity is not greed. It is the coordinates you give to your own becoming. Now, I want to talk about generosity as a strategy, though strategy is too cold a word for it, because the way you give is going to become part of the way you receive. As your abundance grows, the instinct to share it will grow with it, and this is not merely virtuous. It is generative. What you circulate comes back multiplied through channels you cannot trace. The people you lift become the people who lift you. The doors you open for others become the doors that open for you. You are entering a season where your kindness stops being a cost and starts being a kind of investment that pays in ways no ledger can capture. There is a signal you have quietly begun to emit, and I want you to become conscious of it, because it is doing more work than any strategy you could devise. A person who has decided at the root that they are worthy of good things moves through the world at a different frequency than a person who is still pleading for scraps. It shows in the shoulders, in the eyes, in the pause before an answer, in the ease of a no. People sense it before a single word is exchanged, and they respond to it. You have been raising your own frequency without naming it, and the opportunities gathering around you are, in part, simply what that frequency attracts. And there is a role waiting for you on the other side of your own rise, one that will give the whole ascent its deeper meaning. Once you have crossed the threshold, once the fear is behind you and the doors have opened, you will become for someone else the very champion you have been longing for. You will see a younger version of your own struggle in another person's eyes, and you will have the resources and the reach to open a door for them the way one is being opened for you. This is how abundance completes its circuit. It does not end in your hands. It passes through them. Let me name the resistance you might feel to everything I am telling you, because doubt is not your enemy and pretending it away helps no one. Part of you is listening to this and wanting desperately to believe it, and another part is standing guard, arms crossed, muttering that hope is dangerous and that you have been disappointed before. Honor that guarded part. It kept you safe through seasons that would have crushed a more naive person. But its job is nearly done. You are moving into a stretch where the guard can finally rest, where hoping is no longer reckless because the ground beneath the hope is real. If the version of you from the hardest stretch of your life could see where you are standing now, on the edge of everything I am describing, I think that version would weep with relief. That earlier self, the one who kept going with no evidence that it would ever be worth it, the one who held the dream in secret because saying it aloud felt too dangerous, is the reason any of this is possible. You did not arrive here despite those difficult years. You arrived here because of the person those years forged. When the good comes, remember to thank the one who survived long enough to receive it. Let me overturn one more belief, the one that whispers that rest is the enemy of wealth, that you must grind without pause or forfeit your right to prosper. It is a lie and an expensive one. The most generative ideas rarely arrive in exhaustion. They surface in the spacious hours, in play, in wandering, in the moments when you finally stop clenching and let your mind roam. As your abundance grows, you will discover that rest becomes not a luxury you steal, but a discipline you keep, and that your capacity to receive expands precisely in the seasons you allow yourself ease. Prosperity and peace are not opposites. They were always meant to travel together. There is a longer horizon to consider as well, because what is arriving is not only for the span of your own life. The kind of abundance moving toward you has a way of outlasting the person who built it. It becomes the security a family stands on. It becomes the story told about you after you are gone, the example that gives someone permission to reach further than they otherwise would have dared. You are not only building a comfortable life, you are laying down a foundation that others will one day build upon. And there is a quiet dignity in that which no amount of spending could ever purchase. I sense a particular pride that is coming, and I want to distinguish it from arrogance because they are often confused and they are opposites. Arrogance is the loud insecurity of a person who does not believe their own worth and needs constant reassurance. The pride I sense for you is quiet. It is the settled satisfaction of someone who did the work, who kept the faith, who bet on themselves when the odds looked poor, and who is finally watching that bet pay off. You have earned the right to that quiet pride. Do not let anyone shame you out of feeling it when it comes. There is a way that success will let you rewrite your relationship to the people who doubted you. And I want to offer you a version of this that will bring you peace rather than bitterness. When you rise, the temptation is to rise as revenge, to prove them wrong, to relish their surprise. But the sweeter path, the one I sense is truer to your nature, is to rise as release, to stop needing their belief, to become so full of your own certainty that their old doubt simply loses its power to sting. The best answer to being underestimated is not vengeance. It is a life so good that the old wounds go quiet on their own. Let me speak to the freedom that is the real prize underneath the wealth. Because money is never really about money. It is about what money buys, and what it buys you is choice. The freedom to walk away from what diminishes you, the freedom to say yes to the risky, beautiful, uncertain thing because you are no longer trapped by need, the freedom to be generous without calculating, to rest without guilt, to build without permission. This is the deepest form of the richness you are moving toward, and it is the form that no one can ever take back once you have claimed it. I want you to notice how your desires have been trying to guide you all along, because the things you want are not random and they are not shallow. That pull you feel toward a certain kind of life, a certain kind of work, a certain kind of impact is not a distraction from your path. It is the path encoded as longing. The universe tends to plant a desire in the exact soul equipped to fulfill it. Your ambition is not a character flaw to be managed. It is a map, and you are finally learning to read it instead of apologizing for it. There is something almost sacred about the moment a person stops asking permission to want a big life, and I sense you approaching that moment. For so long, you have qualified your dreams, made them smaller so they would seem reasonable, hedged them with maybes so no one could accuse you of arrogance. What is dropping away now is the need to make your hunger acceptable to anyone else. You are allowed to want the enormous version. You are allowed to reach past what is reasonable. The people who changed the world were never the ones who kept their dreams a polite size. Let me describe the version of you that is waiting on the other side of this shift, because I can feel her or him quite clearly, and it may help to have a picture to walk toward. That version of you moves through the world without the low hum of financial fear that has been the background noise of your life. That version makes decisions from abundance, sleeps without the arithmetic, gives without flinching, dreams without hedging. That version is not a fantasy or a stranger. That version is you with the weight lifted, you finally unburdened, you as you were always meant to be beneath everything that pressed you down. Everything Spiritual Light Tarot hopes to offer someone comes down to a single quiet permission. The permission to believe that the largest version of your life is not only possible, but already reaching toward you. And I want to leave that permission in your hands as we come toward the close. You do not have to earn the right to hope for the enormous. You do not have to be worthy first and then wealthy after. The worthiness and the wealth are the same recognition arriving from two directions, and both of them are converging on you now. In this season, in this life, in the person you already are. So let this reading be less a prediction and more a mirror, held up so that you can finally see the size of what you have been carrying. The richness was never only ahead of you. Much of it was already inside you, waiting for you to stop calling it small. The fame, in its truest sense, is simply the world catching up to a value you have always possessed. And the shift I have been describing is less an arrival of something foreign than a homecoming to something that was always yours. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming visible as who you have always been. As you carry the rest of your day forward, carry this with you. That held breath at the beginning, that room set for a guest who had not yet arrived, that guest was never a stranger. It was the fullest expression of your own life. Walking finally through the door you kept open, even in the years you doubted anyone would come. Let it in. Set a place for it. And when it sits down across from you and you feel the strange warm shock of everything you hoped for made real, do not brace, do not flinch, do not wait for it to be taken away. Simply receive it, the way the ground receives rain, the way an open hand receives what was always meant to fill it. It is yours. It has always been yours, and it is arriving now.